Today's first myth came via email, and it speaks to one of the most debated topics over the last 35 years. It's the question of whether or not Robbie Robertson is actually lip-syncing his performance during the band's amazing film, The Last Waltz. There are loads of both fans and foes on both sides of this issue, and you can't deny that there are a lot of points during the film when he seems to be a little bit off with where the music is, as well as a couple points where he's clearly too far away from the microphone for his voice to have actually picked up as well as it did. On the other side of things, it's the band, and you just can't question the fact that they're one of the most important and impressive groups in all of music history. However, if you're looking for an absolutely solid answer to this, the only real place you can go to is Levon Helm's book, The Wheels on Fire, where he says there were tons of overdubs made to the film after the fact, and you can only assume that this was both instrumental as well as vocal overdubs. But I think people need to remember The Last Waltz was not a concert film, it's a documentary. Because of that, I think you have to give some leeway on this idea, and along with that, you have to realize even if they were overdubbed, it's still Robbie Robertson's voice. So while I can't say 100% whether it's true or not, I think it's safe to say that at the very least he wasn't lip syncing, but there was probably some overdubbing after the fact. My second myth today is also a big one, and it's the claim that the piano on the Shangri-La's 1964 hit Leader of the Pack was actually played by a teenaged Billy Joel. This one really gained its legs back in 2010 when Billy Joel himself was talking about it on the Howard Stern show. Now, he was in fact a session musician at the time, and he claimed that he played on one of the early demo versions of the song, but he wasn't sure if any of them actually made the final cut. But while that may be true, none of his performance made the final cut because it's a well-known fact that the final version was done by Roger Rossi in one of the longest recording sessions of that time. This was because there was no sheet music for the musicians and people kept messing up and they had to try recording it more than 70 times before they got it right. So while Billy Joel may have recorded a demo version of the song, he's not on the release take. The final myth today also came via email, and it questions whether or not Ted Nugent dodged the draft. Uncle Ted is certainly one of the most outspoken musicians in all of history. He's a big-time gun advocate and definitely a big guy when it comes to healthy hunting. The man loves his country for sure, but did he dodge the draft? Born in 1948, he was certainly the exact right age to be drafted in the 1960s. But it's also a fact that he never served in any of the armed force branches. But before you say he dodged the draft, remember there were tons of legal ways that you didn't get drafted. And on Ted Nugent's selective service record, it shows that at first he had a high school deferment and then a college deferment. And then in 1969, he was reclassified as eligible for the draft. That same year, he failed a physical examination and was given a 1Y classification, which basically meant unless there was a huge national emergency, you weren't going to get called up. These are the only details available, and honestly, only Ted himself knows whether he purposely blew that physical examination. In terms of dodging the draft, there just isn't enough evidence to say that he did it. He did everything he was required to do, and for one reason or another, he failed the physical examination. So those are my myths for this week. Be sure to check back here every week as I delve into some of the coolest stories in music history, and I'll see you guys again next time.